Part 73. I'm Really Immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 745. Zhu Huntang felt her body go limp and cried silently. She didn't even call out to Zhongqing. In the past, Zhongqing was her mother's spy and often defied Zhu Huntang. Now she has become the little vixen under Lu Chang'an, the tiger's butt. Naturally, she doesn't want to be loyal to Zhu Huntang. His explanation obviously made sense. He must be jealous of his talent. There must be no one who knows how to interpret it from the perspective of psychology and social relations between men and women like myself. Zhu Huntang touched around on his body. Fortunately, before he came in wearing a sheepdoll suit, he cleverly turned down the electric current of the electric horns on his headgear. Being electrocuted so many times was mainly because he suffered severe psychological damage. And the dignity that was insulted, as a fairy sheep, no, as a fairy, she was electrocuted by him and had no sense of elegance at all. I'm very angry. I'm going to play with Dandan Dong Dong. Zhu Huntang stood up angrily and walked out the door. This is what is called walking away. When most people show such an aura, none will be blocked. Lu Chang'an pulled her back and pressed her on the chair. Zhu Huntang found that his wit was useless in front of Lu Chang'an, and he turned over the book of songs in frustration. I won't talk too much today. You can copy this piece of Guanju 10 times and then the class is over. The homework after class is to recite. You can also recite this piece skillfully. I will check it next time in class. Lu Chang'an, I know that educating Zhu Huntang will not happen overnight, so I plan to take it step by step. How can you memorize such a long poem? Zhu Huntang threw away the book. He usually only learns a few lines when singing, let alone something like this that he doesn't know how to get even the slightest interest in reciting. Zhou Dongdong can memorize it, really? I don't believe it. Zhou Dongdong will definitely not be able to memorize it. Lu Chang'an thought for a while and was very sure of this, but she is only a first-grade elementary school student. What is the concept of a first-grade elementary school student? Basically, they are like young cats, dogs, and various bugs. The larvae are almost the same, still in a state of ignorance and chaos. Zhu Huntang frowned. He couldn't use Zhou Dongdong as a shield, but he wasn't too worried. Anyway, he would check it out next time in class and let's talk about it then. You won't tell me the meaning of this poem, right? Other teachers will talk about the translation and understanding of this poem. Zhu Huntang was not interested, but just found it strange that Lu Chang'an's lectures and private lessons in costume TV series, it's like a scene that simply and crudely fools people into copying and reciting it. Don't you already have your own understanding? Huh, Zhu Huntang was confused and angry. Sure enough, his understanding was correct, but why was he still being shocked? So she put on a crotch hood and pushed it towards Lu Chang'an, this bad old man who only enjoyed torturing the cute Mala. I'm not scolding you because of your self-righteous understanding. As long as you didn't say anything about me peeking at other people's showers or forcing others to take a shower, I can still tolerate it. Lu Chang'an's attitude towards study has always been very good. Tolerant, for example, when Zhou Dongdong recited goose, goose, goose in plastic Mandarin, Lu Chang'an would support her and help her explain. Then is my understanding right or wrong? Zhu Huntang raised her head and adjusted her hood. She was very confident in her understanding, but Lu Chang'an still occupies an authoritative position in her heart. If he didn't agreeing with her opinion, Zhu Huntang was a little shaken. Many classic literary works often give people different understandings. Because they are not smart, because they are sheep. Lu Chang'an glanced at Zhu Huntang, because of identity and background, because of learning ability, because of age and era, etc. For various reasons, people often interpret the same literary work differently. For example, in this piece of Guanyang, many people interpret it as the love between a man and a woman. Shang Guandandan will interpret it as the virtue of a concubine, and you will interpret it as someone peeking at the girl taking a bath. Personally speaking, follow your own with your learning progress, experience, knowledge reserves, etc., you will naturally have more understanding. Reading it 100 times will make its meaning self-evident, that's the truth. Zhu Huntang let out a ba in sudden realization. Gradually developing a deeper understanding on your own is more enlightening than a teacher's rigid corrections. Literature is mainly about cultivating people's reading comprehension skills, expression skills, etc. In addition to it, it is more entertainment. After all, literature doesn't have much ability to promote the progress of human technological civilization, words can do that. Are you saying that there is no use in doing literature? Zhu Huntang nodded with deep understanding, as if he never read any literary works, and it would not affect his ability to become a fairy at all. I didn't say that. Lu Chang'an shook his head. Literature still depends on the creator and the content of expression. Some people see darkness and indulge in it, turning a blind eye to the light. Instead, they angrily accuse others of not seeing the darkness. Some people see if you are bright, bathe in the light, let yourself shine, and dispel more darkness. Literary creation is often so clear-cut. Are you going to talk about current affairs? No, I mostly talk about the core values of socialism. Lu Chang'an smiled. Actually, I thought of a way to make you an academician of the Academy of Sciences, an honorary one. Zhu Huntang looked at Lu Chang'an suspiciously. He changed the subject abruptly. There must be a conspiracy. You first graduate from college, then get a PhD, and you can handle the operation. Then you acquire a high-tech company. Oh, no, the Zhu family has it, so this step can be omitted. Next, you have to show up more and create a lot of topics. Like maximum. The highlight is that you invest in a new large collider in our country, and you pay all the expenses. At this time, you will have the opportunity to make friends with quite a few people in the scientific and technological circles, including the world's top physicists. They will all come over and want to participate. At the same time, they will also encounter many problems in work and life, and you will help them solve them. After the large collider is built, you may not know anything about high-energy physics, but you have become one of the most important people in the physics world. There are countless honors waiting for you. What are 10 or 8 honorary academicians? Grandpa, why do you look like a gangster? Zhu Huntang took out his mobile phone and searched for the keyword large collider, then glared at Lu Chang'an. Sure enough, he was not his granddaughter, so he casually killed her. Lu Chang'an just talked to her casually and was very pleased to see that she was not fooled by her wit and growth. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 746. Lu Chang'an asked Zhu Huntang to copy Guanju 10 times in the study room before get out of class was over. Surprisingly, Zhu Huntang did not roll on the ground and resisted, and stayed in the study room honestly. It's a little strange, but can a mere lamb escape from the green grassland? The breath of life condensed in Lu Chang'an's palm is incomparable even to a piece of grassland, so this metaphor is very vivid and there is no problem. Zhou Dongdong and Shang Guandandan did not stay in the dollhouse all the time. They ran downstairs to look for Zhu Huntang, but Zhongqing told them that Zhu Huntang was studying with Lu Chang'an, so Zhou Dongdong sympathized with the fairy sister and took them with him. Shang Guandandan went to do other things. When Lu Chang'an walked out of the study, he saw Zhou Dongdong wearing a toy airplane. She got through the hole in the middle of the toy airplane, like a majestic little airplane pilot. But the small airplane was a little too small, and the pilot was a little too big. Heavy, most likely it won't be able to fly in such a situation. If it had to take off reluctantly, it would crash because the pilot was overweight. Lu Chang'an did not expect that Zhu Huntang actually had such a toy that was obviously prepared for young children, but he also saw Shang Guandandan sitting on a small wooden horse with 4 wheels. It seemed that Zhu Huntang had this kind of toy. There are still many toys for young children. There is a rope tied around the neck of the small wooden horse, and the other end of the rope is held in Zhou Dongdong's hand. Shang Guandandan looked at the little wooden horse, a little worried that Lu Chang'an would say she was childish, but he was unwilling to come down, so he casually muttered a few words that he didn't hear clearly as an explanation to Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an's hearing was very good, and he also noticed that Shang Guandandan was talking, but he didn't know what she said, and he didn't ask more. It is known that many little old ladies have this problem, or it is a manifestation of senile diseases, and they often listen to they muttered inaudible words. "I'm a real little plane today," Zhou Dongdong said hurriedly when he saw Lu Chang'an. "Oh, then you used to say that you were a little plane, but were you lying? It turns out that you were just a fake little plane." Lu Chang'an suddenly realized the point. I used to do the same," Zhou Dongdong quickly defended, "it's just that today is a little more real than before. They are all real small planes. If you were a real little plane, you would definitely know how to recite poems." Lu Chang'an remembered that Zhu Huntang had just said that Zhou Dongdong couldn't recite poems, and hoped that she could prove herself. "Goose, goose, goose, singing to the sky, by Mao Lake and Deer Water, moving the clear waves with horizontal palms," Zhou Dongdong immediately backtracked, proving that he was a real little plane. Zhou Dongdong proved himself. He threw away the rope in his hand, held the handle on the wing of the small plane with both hands and prepared to take off. However, Lu Chang'an grabbed his clothes and failed to take off. "Change another one, you've been memorizing this poem for 2 years," Lu Chang'an asked with dissatisfaction. Whose child shows off memorizing poems, instead of blurting out Song of Everlasting Sorrow, Pipa Song and the like? The shorter ones can also be read in less than one breath, such as Sleepwalking Tianmu Song of Farewell and About to Enter the Wine. "Where is Zhou Dongdong? I went from kindergarten to elementary school with a song ode to the goose. Li Liyuan comes to the grass. The spring breeze blows and life begins again." Zhou Dongdong immediately recited a poem with great momentum. She was no longer Zhou Dongdong from kindergarten. Of course, Zhou Dongdong, a primary school student, could recite at least 2 poems. Lu Chang'an nodded and waited for Zhou Dongdong. Zhou Dongdong recited poems, and it was rare to be able to finish them in one go. Just like when she recited Eternal Goose, at first she could only goose goose, goose, song to the sky over and over again. Zhou Dongdong felt that she had finished carrying it, so she held up the wings of the plane and prepared to take off again. She found that Brother Chang'an was still holding on to her, preventing her from taking off. Brother Chang'an probably didn't understand the poem he was reciting, so Zhou Dongdong patiently recited it twice more. "The grass grows in Lily Yuan. The spring breeze blows and grows again. The grass grows in Lily Yuan. The spring breeze blows and grows again." "She's finished carrying it," Shang Guandandan had to remind Mozi when he saw that Lu Chang'an still didn't understand. Kindergarten and primary school students are generally only required to recite the first 4 verses of Bai Juyi's poem Farewell to the Ancient Prairie of Fuad, which is "The grass grows in the original land, and it withers and grows with each year, and the wildfires are endless, and the spring breeze blows and grows again. The following fragrance from far away invades the ancient road, clear green meets the deserted city, and sends the king and grandson away again, and the luxuriant flowers are full of farewell." Love is not required for kindergarten and primary school students to recite. It was originally cut in half, but now that Zhou Dongdong is here, there are only 2 sentences left. Li Liyuan is on the grass, 2 sentences are missing in the middle, and the spring breeze blows again. Lu Chang'an reminded that it is impossible for school teachers to only teach the first and last 2 sentences and leave out the middle. When you are away from the original grass, there are 2 sentences missing in the middle. The spring breeze blows and the grass grows again. Zhou Dongdong immediately remembered it and recited it twice aloud. Giggle. Shang Guan laughed lightly. Dongdong is so cute. Lu Chang'an turned to glare at Shang Guandandan. When educating children, it would be particularly humiliating if there was always someone watching the joke. This was also one of the important reasons why many children were beaten. Lu Chang'an taught Zhou Dongdong to memorize the 4 sentences in full several times, and Zhou Dongdong finally remembered that the teacher in school seemed to have taught them the same 4 sentences. Then why do I only remember 2 sentences? Zhou Dongdong was puzzled. Because you're a stupid kid. Then why last time we went shopping for clothes, our clothes were smart and brave children and stupid dragon suits? Zhou Dongdong remembered clearly. That's a combination of a witty and brave dragon and a silly child, Lu Chang'an said clearly every word. This child always easily forgets things that are not good for her or simply remembers them the opposite. Then last time you said you wanted to have a smart and brave child with my mother, when will it be born? Zhou Dongdong asked expectantly. Shang Guandandan's little hen-like laughter rang out again, but this time Lu Chang'an covered his mouth as soon as it rang out. That's what you said. It's enough for your mother to have a stupid child like yours. It's probably stupid for her to have another child. Lu Chang'an also has no confidence in Zhou Shuling. The reason why he can give birth to a child like Zhou Dongdong ultimately comes from motherly stupidity. Zhou Dongdong was greatly disappointed. It turned out that Chang'an's brother and mother could not give birth to a smart and brave child, but could only give birth to a stupid child. Fortunately, he was already a smart and brave child. Lu Chang'an released his hand covering Shang Guandandan's mouth, and Shang Guandandan glared at him, then pedaled his little wooden horse on the ground, following behind Zhou Dongdong, who took off. Lu Chang'an looked at the wet palms and saw a few teeth marks. When he let go, he was actually bitten by her. No, she could actually bite teeth marks on his skin. This little old lady was really like a monster. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 747. Zhongqing saw Lu Chang'an walking out of the study and sitting down on the sofa in the viewing corridor. Watching Zhou Dongdong and Shang Guandandan playing around, Zhongqing brought the tea set and brewed a pot of local wine for Lu Chang'an. Green tea. There are quite a number of middle-aged and elderly people who do not pursue famous brands when drinking tea. They just love the rough taste of local tea brewed in large enamel cups when they were young. The cup is thick and big, and there are inevitable traces of paint and porcelain peeling off it. There are also circles of brown tea stains inside, which cannot be washed away. I just pick some tea leaves from the tea jar and sprinkle it in. I don't pay attention to how to wash the tea. Just soak in boiling water, blow on it and drink. Oral cancer is also common. Of course Zhongqing was not this dirty. The enamel cup she brought to Lu Chang'an was also produced in recent years, and had the slogan "Working people are the most glorious" on it. This green tea is indeed relatively rough. Grandma picked the tea leaves from a few tea trees at her home in the countryside. After stir-frying, she rubbed them and dried them in the sun. She gave some to Zhongqing. Zhongqing usually likes to drink this kind of tea, and has never given it to Zhu Huntang, but when he saw Lu Chang'an, he thought it would be a good idea to use it to entertain Lu Chang'an. Tasty. Lu Chang'an took a sip of tea and nodded. It's not that this tea is good, it's just that many times when evaluating something, it's not just its main attributes that affect the perception. The taste of the tea is just that, but if it can evoke people's memories, thoughts, and feelings, that's not bad. Zhongqing felt a little happy, a feeling he often felt when he was praised by his third wife. She stood aside, quietly observing Lu Chang'an, and thinking about it carefully. There was no sharp contrast between his appearance now and the first time she met him, even though her favorability towards him was completely different. Many people change one set of clothes and another look, and when they meet, people will feel completely different. In fact, their temperament is too thin, and they cannot support an independent image by themselves. This situation is common in some idol dramas. A domineering president who is in trouble or hiding his identity is decadent and downcast when he and the heroine meet for the first time. When they meet again, the occasion and clothing are changed, and it is as if they are a different person. Taking advantage of this contrast to create a sense of anticipation are already the ultimate skill of some screenwriters. The vast majority of screenwriters for film and television dramas are 100 times behind mid-level online writers in terms of plot rationality, plot creation, and creation of a sense of anticipation and excitement. Position. Zhongqing looked at Lu Chang'an, the young man who was wearing ragged pants and moving bricks at the construction site, and the man she was now very happy to serve tea and water for. She didn't feel like he was a different person at all. There was no huge difference in temperament. What changes is only his own mentality and cognition, rather than his temperament and aura being changed by external dressing up and environment. This kind of person is too strong inside and has a stable state of mind. The impression he leaves on others is his own person and his strong personality charm, rather than being like some people who are just remembered and said, "Oh, that ex-president of XX company." Zhongqing actually thought of Zhuntang from this. In fact, when he thought of Zhuntang, Zhongqing's impression was not a label like the third young lady of the Zhu family, but a fairy. Zhongqing really thought that Zhuntang was a fairy. A completely different species from ordinary girls. When she was bullied by Lu Chang'an because of Zhu Huntang, she angrily declared to Lu Chang'an that Zhu Huntang was a fairy and she could not be treated as an ordinary girl. Zhongqing saw Lu Chang'an finish a cup of tea and pour him another half cup. He saw the corner of his mouth slightly raised as he watched Zhou Dongdong and Shang Guandandan play happily. Zhou Dongdong flapped the wings of the plane and ran in front, while Shang Guandandan chased behind him on a small wooden horse. Zhongqing found that whenever Shang Guandandan turned his head to look at Lu Chang'an would turn his head expressionlessly, pretending not to care at all. Pay attention to Shang Guandandan's appearance. Shang Guandandan would look at Lu Chang'an from time to time. If she felt that Lu Chang'an was looking at her, she would stop and touch the little wooden horse as if nothing had happened. If Lu Chang'an didn't look at her, she would kick the little wooden horse very fast and put her mouth in her mouth. He also imitated the sound of the horse and kept running behind Zhou Dongdong. Zhongqing laughed and bent down, pressing the lapel on his chest. "Have a barbecue date tonight." The public account of the barbecue restaurant we often go to sent a message that fresh whole tan sheep have come into the store. "Okay, then you can make a reservation and leave us at least 2 legs of lamb, a lamb chop or something." Lu Chang'an felt that he hadn't had a barbecue in a long time. "I'll pick you up when I'm done." Zhongqing looked at Zhou Dongdong and Shang Guandandan and said. Fortunately, he was considered a middle-income group. It was really stressful for ordinary working-class people to treat these 3 people to a barbecue. What's more, Lu Chang'an sometimes packs things, probably for Zhou Shuling. At this time, Zhu Huntang came out of the study and saw Lu Chang'an and Zhongqing from a distance, so he came over on a balancing car. She held a tablet in her hand and stood in front of Lu Chang'an fully prepared. "Is it finished?" Lu Chang'an was a little unconvinced. The full text of Guanju is very short, but like Zhu Huntang, who, like Zhou Dongdong, spends most of his homework biting his pen or secretly watching TV, he often wastes a lot of time. Take up 90% of the homework completion time. Zhu Huntang turned on the computer, and after unlocking it, a text document was displayed, with 10 full texts of Guanju neatly displayed on it. Lu Chang'an shook the enamel cup in his hand. Fortunately, he was a person who was very good at controlling his emotions and did not roll the cup into a ball. How innocent is the cup? Instead, you can grab Zhu Huntang's waist, shoot her out of the window, fly into the universe, and become a fairy flying in the sky. Calm down. Zhu Huntang tentatively patted Lu Chang'an's shoulder to comfort the scary tiger. As soon as he saw Zhongqing standing next to Lu Chang'an, Zhu Huntang couldn't help but think of the idiom "the fox fakes the tiger's power." The key is that the tiger and the story of the vixen and the whip. I asked you to copy it 10 times, that's it. Lu Chang'an felt that he would change many habits in the future. For example, he always liked to watch Zhou Shuling beat children. Thinking about it, it would not be interesting if Zhou Shuling was gloating and waiting for him to beat Zhu Huntang. Experience. I typed it out myself for the first time, and I typed using Chinese pinyin. It can improve my Chinese pinyin level and remember the correct pronunciation of words. I copied and pasted the next 10 times. Zhu Huntang was generous. He admitted, "You copied what you said 10 times. Isn't copying and pasting just copying?" After saying that, in order to prove that he copied and pasted, Zhu Huntang pressed the undo button, and the article Guanju disappeared directly. If it was typed one by one, only one character would disappear. Don't be impatient. When Zhongqing saw Lu Chang'an was about to get up, he quickly pressed Lu Chang'an's shoulders. But when he pressed his shoulders, he suddenly felt the strong and impactful force of the man. As expected, this man was somewhere. These aspects naturally have a strong charm for women, which makes Zhongqing's heart skip a beat. Zhu Huntang threw away the tablet, crossed his hands in front of his chest, and couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Although Zhongqing was a little vixen who stood on the tiger's side, he still knew how to protect himself at critical moments. Zhu Huntang gave him an appreciative look. Third miss, just copy it 10 times with pen and paper. Even if it takes 20 minutes to write an article, you can copy it slowly and do it bits and pieces. I will accompany you to write it. I will definitely finish it by night. I'll send it to him for examination. Zhongqing persuaded him earnestly. Wait a minute, please listen to my reasoning first. Zhu Huntang was unwilling to write it 10 times by hand. Then her beautiful hands, which are only used to display superpowers, will definitely grow a lot of calluses, which is terrible. You want to reason with me? Lu Chang'an nodded. He is a person who is very willing to reason with me. Unless others have finished explaining their reasoning and he has nothing to say, in most cases other than that, he will listen to the conversation calmly. You just told me that literature is actually an entertainment thing, and writing is the focus of spreading and promoting the development of civilization. Writing and typing are actually the same. Do we still need to rely on writing to spread and promote the development of civilization? It's an inefficient way, far inferior to typing. Zhu Huntang glanced at the expressionless Lu Chang'an, took a few steps back, and then said, "Think about it, there are 10,000 Harry Potters in the eyes of 10,000 people. Everyone writes in different fonts. There are also errors in the process, which often lead to fallacies in information dissemination, which have a great impact. It is said that the First World War was caused by the British handwriting being too ugly, and Hitler thought the British were scolding him. Third miss, if you want to be reasonable, just be reasonable and don't quote scriptures." Zhongqing saw that Lu Chang'an was still expressionless, but Zhu Huntang was obviously in more danger and quickly tried to save him. In short, typing is the focus now. Writing is just an entertainment skill, such as calligraphy. I can recite Guanju or type it out in its entirety. I can understand and remember it myself, and I can also use electronic media. Spread it accurately and promote the inheritance and development of civilization. Why do you still need to copy it 10 times in such a backward and inefficient way as handwriting? Zhu Huntang pointed to his tablet. Do you think this is true? Lu Chang'an took a sip of tea, put down the cup, and clasped his hands on his chest. What Zhu Huntang said made sense. Of course, he could refute her. For example, he would make her familiar with the structure of fonts during the copying process. Chinese characters are a kind of pictographic characters. Only by becoming familiar with the structure of fonts can we better understand the creative ideas of characters and the picture meaning contained in the poetic sentences composed of characters. Only in this way can excellent characters be more scientific and more beautiful. The ability to disseminate accurate and more effective information. Chinese characters are the best writing in the world, in every sense of the word. Okay, I won't copy today. Lu Chang'an changed his mind. Let's do it step by step. Zhu Huntang is not good at anything else. She always talks about fallacies and heresies. Since she wants to be reasonable, rather than wallowing and talking, there is a certain truth to it, then Lu Chang'an will give her face, so that he will not beat her indiscriminately. As for copying, she must be willing to copy in the future. This tradition cannot be lost. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 748. Zhu Huntang never thought that he could actually convince Lu Chang'an and make him accept the truth of her righteous words. It seems that the universe is too big to be true. This is what it feels like to convince people with reason, right? Zhu Huntang felt a little like a fairy when he saw Lu Chang'an sincerely convinced and bowed down to his witty eloquence. Sure enough, even Lu Chang'an can be said to be the god of nature, but the universe where the gods live is the beam universe. He is the fairy sheep who controls the beam universe. The rules of the world are the truths she tells, and Lu Chang'an must abide by them. These rules. In order not to anger Lu Chang'an and challenge his position as the controller of the Bimea universe, Zhu Huntang did not say these words, but just picked up the tablet and ran away shouting "Bi Baba." Third Miss has become more and more fond of imitating the meowing of sheep recently. Zhongqing found that in the past, she only barked once in a while, and she was still secretive. Zhongqing noticed her when she barked, and she would ramble on to explain, but now calling all day long. You prepare some good grass for her as a supper. Let's have roasted whole lamb tonight. Zhongqing snickered softly. Lu Chang'an had no objection. Anyway, he would never be picky and ask for anything when someone else was treating him to a treat. Zhu Huntang changed his clothes and played with Shang Guandandan and Zhou Dongdong for a while, and then Lu Chang'an took the old and the young home to have dinner. Zhu Huntang originally wanted to let them have dinner together, but Zhou Shuling had already prepared dinner at home. Zhu Huntang suspected that Lu Chang'an had the habit of when a woman prepares dinner at home, she must go home to eat, but this kind of words is only suitable for gossip with Zhongqing in private, ruining the old man's private affair with his wife. She said it in front of him, fearing that he would ride on her and drive her to the depths of the universe to fly freely, never to return to Earth again. Back under the sycamore tree, Shang Guandandan called the electric car Biddy. Biddy twice to greet it. After walking over and touching the scars of the electric car lovingly, he followed him upstairs to eat. Zhou Shuling said she also wanted to imitate it. Zhou Shuling had to be careful when learning to ride an electric bike. If she was hit again, Shang Guandandan felt that she would hold the electric bike in her arms and lie in a coffin, not wanting to come out for a long time. In the evening, when Zhongqing came to pick up Lu Chang'an for barbecue, it was already 10 o'clock. Zhou Dongdong didn't hear anything about midnight snacks in the afternoon, so he didn't insist on it until this point and went to sleep sleepily. Shang Guan today, Dandan was absent-minded when she occupied the most prestigious position on the electric heating table and watched TV. From time to time, she would go out to take a look at her electric car downstairs. Lu Chang'an suggested that she carry the electric car upstairs and put it under her nose to watch. This should be a very common operation for her, but she just changed the daily routine of carrying a TV into carrying an electric car. Shang Guandandan was a little wary, wondering if Lu Chang'an wanted to take the opportunity to snatch her electric pony carriage again. Otherwise, why didn't he ask her to carry it into her room and lock it up, instead of taking it upstairs? So after Shang Guandandan went downstairs, he carried the electric car into the room downstairs and did not go upstairs again the whole night. Lu Chang'an actually just felt that her room was already very crowded. With such a big coffin in it, and now an electric car in it, wouldn't it make her feel depressed? It is actually very convenient to put the electric car in his living room. She can even ride the electric car down the balcony in the living room. Zhongqing picked up Lu Chang'an and rushed to the barbecue restaurant. The reserved roasted whole lamb had been marinated and grilled until half cooked. After the two of them sat down, the boss and his wife took action in person, bringing the lamb rack and the large basin of charcoal fire over to Zhongqing. Qing and Lu Chang'an can take over and enjoy the fun of baking again. Many people like to have such a sense of participation. If they really have to prepare a roasted whole lamb by themselves, starting from the preparation of ingredients, it is estimated that not many people can do it. You just have to be responsible for eating. I'll do all the roasting and cutting. Lu Chang'an also likes to participate. Sheep are the most important livestock to humans after pigs. Sheep lag behind pigs in providing protein, but sheep are very important to humans. Clothing in humans' food, clothing, housing, and transportation is very important. Lu Chang'an started raising and eating sheep after domesticating wild sheep. His affection for sheep is as deep as for pigs, and he wants to eat them from time to time. As for when China began to domesticate wild sheep, there is always controversy. Whenever this kind of exploration of history, there will always be a wave of people who come to find various ancestors and origins of things in China, in Africa, Central Asia, and even Europe. It seems that they are just like that. There should not be anything that originated in this land or developed independently. Then I'll order some other dishes. I'm too tired of just eating mutton. I'll get a few takeout boxes and you can cut some while you roast them and take them back. The two of us won't be able to finish them all. Zhongqing flipped through the menu and said, she really didn't mean to be so busy at this point that Zhou Dongdong and Shang Guandandan didn't have anything to eat. Zhongqing has certain supervisory authority over Baojun Group's business in the entire mainland, but she is young after all. At present, she is mainly familiar with the work in southern Hunan, which is enough for her to keep busy. She also has the eldest lady Zhu Huntang to take care of. The third wife also told her that work matters were not as important as Zhu Huntang, so Zhongqing only went about other work after taking care of Zhu Huntang. Today I wasted too much time reciting poems with Zhu Huntang. Do you want to drink? Lu Chang'an glanced at Zhongqing's fair neck. She took off her coat. There were delicate clavicles under the round shoulders. The sunken clavicle groove seemed to be able to place a shelled egg stably. If a woman doesn't have a beautiful, the elegant and delicate taste of the collarbone will be gone. Drink, I'm going back to my aunt's house today. Find a driver to take me off first, and then take you back. Just park the car in your community. I'll pick it up tomorrow. Zhongqing's face was slightly hot, and he turned around to explain quickly. Fan, I want to drink and may get drunk, but I don't want to get drunk and send him back to the hotel. It was so embarrassing that he cheated on her when she was drunk that night, especially when he knocked her unconscious with one palm. If she was a little girl like her cousin, she would probably regard it as a huge shame that will never be washed away in her lifetime. No, I'll take you home and I'll stroll back slowly. Are you going to stop posting on Moments today? Lu Chang'an said with a smile. Zhongqing gave him an angry look. Once when she and Lu Chang'an were having barbecue together, she posted a photo of her and Lu Chang'an on WeChat Moments. She originally wanted to tease Bai Hui, but when her aunt saw it, she thought she was looking for someone. Lu Chang'an used a knife to stir the charcoal fire and began to turn the grill over. The mutton had begun to sizzle and emit fragrant oil. The surface was crispy and the inside was ripe. With a slight cut of the knife, the meat inside had distinct layers and sweet juice. It flows out from the mouth, and one can imagine the pleasure of taking a bite and the delicious food blooming in the mouth. This sheep is moderately fat and lean. To eat a roasted whole sheep, you need to eat the half-fat and half-lean parts. It has a richer taste than the pure meat parts. Some people only like to eat lean meat, which is another matter. While Lu Chang'an was grilling, he sliced or tore the meat strips and handed them to Zhongqing. He didn't eat them first, but put some in the packing box. In fact, roasted whole lamb is meant to be eaten around while it is being roasted. Packing it back to eat is soulless. However, After heating it up in the microwave tomorrow morning, the taste can still be restored to 80–90%, and it can be paired with a bowl of hot spicy oil and green onion soup. It feels good, and it can still make Joe Dong Dong, who focuses on eating more instead of being refined, have a full meal like a pig. Why do you have a better appetite than your cousin? Lu Chang'an asked casually as he watched Zhong Qing take a bite of the long lamb rib. Maternal genes have a great influence on physical fitness. Zhong Qing and Bai Hui are similar in stature, but Bai Hui is not as good at eating and drinking as Zhong Qing. This may also be related to his living habits, business banquet needs, etc. Zhong Qing is a social person after all. Our group actually has many cutting-edge biological research products that can improve metabolism and physical fitness. The third wife sometimes gives me some health products and the like. I get drunk easily when I drink, but they don't affect the liver like ordinary people. What I eat, if you give her more, you won't have to worry about fat on your belly. Zhong Qing's cheeks turned red slightly, thinking of the food that the third wife sometimes gave her to eat, which would make people feel weird. Did Zhu Huntang take the anti-mental medicine you invented? Miss Third is not fat, so why should she lose fat? What is your IQ? Zhong Qing couldn't help but laugh, opened a bottle of beer and handed it to Lu Chang'an. Don't always target her, Miss Third is actually looking after you. She is more innocent in front of others. She is not like this in front of others. The third wife will not give her any health supplements, saying that these ordinary things are not effective for her. Why doesn't it work? Lu Chang'an asked with concern. I don't know. Zhong Qing drank some wine, his cheeks turned pink, and his eyes began to water. You can ask yourself. Anyway, the third wife values you so much. Lu Chang'an nodded and stopped asking Zhong Qing. Zhu Huntang looked no different from ordinary people, and he was not as invulnerable as Qin Yinan, but the truly extraordinary thing about Zhu Huntang may only be known to Sume. Maybe she can really turn into a sheep? Lu Chang'an immediately expelled this absurd thought from his mind. He called her a lamb, just for fun. Imagine that one day she really turns into a stupid sheep, chases him and pushes his butt with the horns. Lu Chang'an still not willing to accept it. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 749. Although all sheep actually belong to the bovine family, sheep are much more unique than common buffaloes and oxen. They are often wild and uninhibited, walking on poetry and distant mountain tops, and on cliffs that humans look up to. According to statistics, among the records of police calls due to livestock problems, sheep consume the most police force. From time to time, villagers will call the police saying that their sheep have climbed to some cliffs and cannot get up or down, waiting for the police. Or the firefighters try to kick them down. It is common to kick down today and climb up again tomorrow. Lu Chang'an thought about it for a while, and it was not completely impossible that Zhu Huntang would really turn into a sheep. For a while, the mutton under the knife edge lost its flavor. He recalled that sheep herding was still a common job in the 1980s and 1990s, and goat dung balls were more common. The dung balls looked like chocolate beans such as malacin, or ripe and dried dates, and were often eaten by people by mistake. Nowadays, many people spit out the residue after eating betel nuts, which makes people think that they are spitting out a grain of dog feces, which is quite similar. After the barbecue, the driver Zhong Qing had just arrived. She immediately lay down after taking down the account. Lu Chang'an helped her get into the car. The driver couldn't help but look at Zhong Qing's figure a few more times, and then looked at Lu Chang'an. After letting out a long sigh, he put on the seat cover, put on his gloves and started the car. Zhong Qing is staying at his aunt's house today, and Zongqing's aunt is Bai Hui's mother, which means Zhong Qing is staying at Bai Hui's house today. Bai Hui and Miao Yingying also left Gao Dui's house today. Bai Hui didn't have any problems. She and Gao Dui were purely friends. It didn't involve anything to stay for an extra day or two. But Miao Yingying couldn't stay all the time. She had to think about it. I am a reserved girl, so I can't look like I wish I could stay at the Gao Dui family for as long as possible, especially during the Chinese New Year. Lu Chang'an did not throw Zhongqing downstairs and leave, but sent him directly to his home. This was the first time Lu Chang'an came to Bai Hui's house. It was probably a community built about 10 years ago. At that time, the housing prices in Juncha were still quite cheap. There were speakers and dance equipment for square dancing in the living room. Bai Hui's mother was just 40 years old. The charm is still there, and you can see the strength of the maternal genes. Thank you, young man. After putting Zhongqing in the guest room, Bai Hui's mother looked at Lu Chang'an and said, "You're welcome." Zhongqing probably just greeted Bai Hui's mother. The doors to other rooms were closed. It seemed that Bai Hui was asleep. "I think you seem to be a bit kind," Bai Hui's mother said with a smile, stretched out her hand, and then retracted it. "The young man is really tall and strong. Drunk people are so heavy that they can't breathe even if they are supported. Take a breath. You should go to bed early. Sorry for bothering you." Lu Chang'an was about to leave. "Wait a minute, young man, have a drink." Bai Hui's mother was very enthusiastic. She grabbed Lu Chang'an, opened the refrigerator, took a bottle of orange juice and handed it to Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an saw that there was a layer full of small bottles of orange juice in the refrigerator, and there were large bottles below, which seemed to be the capacity for entertaining guests at family gatherings and banquets. Noticing Lu Chang'an looking at a refrigerator full of orange juice, Bai Hui's mother explained, "My girl loves to drink orange juice. She bought several boxes and only put a small part in the refrigerator, so she can use it for bathing." Lu Chang'an smiled, opened the orange juice and took a sip. "I remembered, you are the guy who Ching Ching posted on moments before." Bai Hui's mother recognized her, and the enthusiasm in her eyes became even more different. She walked a few steps in front of Lu Chang'an, looking up and down, and couldn't help but I nodded. This first impression was really satisfying. Yes, the guests showed excellent memory on things like this that can smell the smell of gossip. When Lu Chang'an and Zhongqing were having barbecue, they also mentioned Zhongqing's post on WeChat moments. They knew Bai Hui's mother what is meant. "How are things going?" Bai Hui's mother looked back at the guest room and asked in a lowered voice. Zhongqing's childhood experience especially made her, an aunt, feel distressed. The eldest sister married away from Taiwan, and Bai Hui's mother hoped that Zhongqing can marry back to Juncha. The place on Taiwan Island is getting worse and worse now. Bai Hui's mother has also been there. It's like a place in the countryside. "You misunderstood, I have a girlfriend," Lu Chang'an explained. Bai Hui's mother glanced at Lu Chang'an and quickly closed the guest room door. When she turned around, her expression changed. "You have a girlfriend? Do you want to have barbecue with my Ching Ching in the middle of the night if you have something to do? Tell me, are you two people?" "No, Zhongqing and I are friends. I like to eat barbecue. She gets drunk easily. Let's have a late night snack together. I will send her back and she will be relieved." That's also an ambiguous relationship. Bai Hui's mother didn't believe it. "Do you really have a girlfriend?" "It's true. Zonking's conditions are quite good." "You don't plan to break up with your girlfriend?" Bai Hui's mother felt that she was a bit superficial, but the guy in front of her looked really comfortable, his demeanor was calm, and his words and deeds were full of likability. It feels like women are visual creatures after all. Otherwise, how could there be so many stories about princesses marrying poor boys? It's not because the poor boy is handsome. "You're thinking too much." Lu Chang'an understood what Bai Hui's mother meant and politely refused. "What do you mean I'm overthinking? Do you mean you don't like Zhongqing?" Bai Hui's mother was a little angry and reached out to snatch the orange juice bottle back from Lu Chang'an's hand. "You are indeed overthinking. When you see a man and a woman together, you just think that something should happen to them. This is called overthinking." Lu Chang'an took back the orange juice bottle from Bai Hui's mother, I will be here this year 18 years old, oh, 19 years old, and I am a classmate with your Bai Hu. Ah, Bai Hui's mother was surprised and embarrassed. Such a manly guy was actually her daughter's classmate? Lu Chang'an drank the orange juice in one gulp and handed the bottle back. Bai Hui's mother subconsciously took it in her hand. Lu Chang'an thanked you again, thank you for the orange juice. After saying that, Lu Chang'an walked out the door. At this time, a door opened, and Bai Hui, wearing a white suspender pajamas, came out, rubbing his eyes in confusion. Mom, who are you arguing with in the middle of the night? Good evening, Lu Chang'an greeted Bai Hui. Bai Hui's pajamas were transparent and light. As she moved around, the pajamas swayed, and the girl's figure was covered by the loose skirt. The baby's fat cheeks were especially cute because of her confused look. Lu Chang'an, ah. Bai Hui greeted with some surprise, then her cheeks turned red and she hurriedly ran into the room. You wait a moment, wait for me. Bai Hui ran into the room, grabbed the door frame and took a look out to make sure that Lu Chang'an didn't mean to leave regardless, then went in and quickly put on a coat before walking out. Hui, is he really your classmate? Bai Hui's mother's eyes lit up again. Could it be that the girlfriend he was talking about was Bai Hui? Bai Hui's mother is not anxious for her daughter to find a boyfriend. After all, she is only a freshman. Zhongqing is the anxious one, but the boy in front of her looks very comfortable. That kind of temperament and male lust are not common in daily life. Much better than Jianning and Lu Yuan, who always followed Bai Hui. Bai Hui's mother is actually not dissatisfied with Jianning and Lu Yuan, but they are not Bai Hui's boyfriends. Now that she has met someone better, there is nothing wrong with being a mother who is happy to see her. In the winter, I just wear a thin jacket and shirt. I have a really good physique, but there is an extra button on the chest, which makes me look a bit sexy. Well, Lu Chang'an from our class, haven't you seen him at school during parent-teacher conferences before? Bai Hui felt a little embarrassed. Her mother had been to several parent-teacher conferences, but couldn't she have noticed Lu Chang'an? This guy should always shine like the sun, right? I haven't seen it, I haven't seen it. Is your name Lu Chang'an? It's a good name. It's good to have a surname of Lu, or a good name to be called Chang'an. I only wish for Chang'an in my life, right? Bai Hui's mother said enthusiastically, putting aside the little unhappiness just now. The back of my head. You're right, Lu Chang'an said with a smile. There was nothing embarrassing about her enthusiasm and repeated changes of expression. Middle-aged and elderly women were like this. Why did you come to my house? Bai Hui was a little nervous and embarrassed. His home seemed a bit messy. I wonder if he would be disgusted or feel that it didn't match his usual delicate girlish appearance. Your cousin and I were having a barbecue. She drank a little too much, so I sent her here, Lu Chang'an explained again. Bai Hui understood and made an appointment to go to a relative's house with her cousin tomorrow morning, so Zhongqing didn't stay at the hotel. But my cousin made an appointment with Lu Chang'an for a barbecue, but she didn't even call her out. It was so cold and it was so late, so Bai Hui might not really go, but it was still appropriate to call her. Go to bed early, I'm going back. It doesn't matter if it's early or late, but you can't disturb others' rest. He waved his hand and walked out the door. I'll see you off. Bai Hui put his hands behind his back, jumped, and looked at Lu Chang'an expectantly. Aren't you afraid of catching a cold? She's not afraid of catching a cold. She's in good health, Bai Hui's mother said quickly. Lu Chang'an looked at Bai Hui's bare legs, wearing fluffy frog slippers, and a bulging down jacket, and nodded. Many girls seem to only care about the temperature of their upper body. Their lower body would rather tremble in the low temperature than look bloated. Bai Hui sent Lu Chang'an downstairs. There were not many windows with lights on in the community. The two of them stood under the night light and talked for a few words. Bai Hui asked him why he ran away from Gao Dui's house in the middle of the night. Lu Chang'an said that he was in a burglar's cave. He dug up a dead man and took him home. Bai Hui was so frightened that he punched him several times. He loosened his down jacket and quickly covered it again. Her down jacket is a bit small, so if she doesn't cover it, the collar will naturally spread to both sides, revealing the fact that she is not wearing underwear. School is about to start. Bai Hui looked at Lu Chang'an with soft eyes. I mean, I haven't played with Xiao Tang for a long time. When school starts, I can play with her more often and see each other. She seems to be here too today. Back to Junsha. By the way, I have something to ask for your help. Lu Chang'an almost forgot about the business. Our community has formed a team to participate in a square dance competition and we need a coach. I teach square dancing. Bai Hui couldn't help but danced a dance move, which was very cute and girly, reminding him that he was not the queen of square dancing. You don't need to teach Phoenix Legends classic dance. It's just the way you dance. Our square dance team takes a contrasting route, Lu Chang'an explained. Then I have no problem. Bai Hui turned to look at the light of the street lamp falling on the wall tiles. Then will you participate? I won't participate, but I'll go and have a look if I have nothing to do. Lu Chang'an usually doesn't participate in this kind of competition. It's too bullying. Lu Chang'an's bullying of others is just to directly crush people on the technical level. But when it comes to attractive things like bonuses, certificates, and trophies, he will not deliberately pursue the prize. Giving the fruits of victory that the strong can capture to the weak to taste the joy is a higher realm in life. Okay, I'm afraid your participation will affect my performance. Bai Hui pouted and nodded, but I have a condition. What conditions? Lu Chang'an became alert. It is absolutely impossible for me to sacrifice my appearance. I hate it. Bai Hui's heart skipped a beat, and she suddenly felt a little impulsive. She let go of her hands covering her down jacket, put her palms firmly in her pockets, pulled the clothes one by one, and looked at him with flushed cheeks. Lu Chang'an took 3 steps back even more vigilantly. I only have one condition. Bai Hui saw that he reacted like this, and he still kept that vigilant expression on his face, so he twisted around and laughed. You compliment me on how cute I am, and I will promise you. Foolish woman. After Lu Chang'an finished speaking, he quickly backed away and trotted away. In this cold night, he felt a little hot. Fortunately, the cold wind brought by running suppressed the restlessness. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 750. Bai Hui pursed her lips and watched Lu Chang'an's figure blend into the dark night. She walked to where he was standing just now and turned around. His brows were slightly wrinkled, his shoulders were raised a little, and he stared at the place where he was standing with a vigilant expression. Foolish woman. Bai Hui couldn't help but laugh after imitating the way Lu Chang'an spoke. Sometimes she thought Lu Chang'an was cute. He was obviously a person with an annoying temperament from his hair to his toenails. He was probably out of his mind to describe Lu Chang'an as cute. If he told Miao Yingying that Lu Chang'an was cute, Miao Yingying would probably touch her forehead to see if she had a fever and was talking nonsense. Bai Hui stood on tiptoe, looked up, and quickly took the elevator to the top floor, where she saw Lu Chang'an by the window. After he left the community, he resumed his usual slow walking posture, his tall body casting a long shadow under the light of the street lamp. He seemed to be lost in thought, and stopped moving forward while standing under the street lamp. Instead, he stared at the lamp pole without moving. Bai Hui remembered that there were often random small advertisements posted on the street light poles. Lu Chang'an was indeed someone who would attract attention for all kinds of weird things. Suddenly Lu Chang'an looked back, and Bai Hui couldn't help but raise his hand to cover his face, as if his eyes could penetrate the night and find the window she was hiding among the many buildings. Fortunately, he just glanced casually, stood there not knowing what he was doing, and continued walking forward. He didn't seem to know how to take a taxi. He was walking unsteadily like this, and he didn't know when he would get home. Was he going to teach dance to the square dance team in their community tomorrow? Bai Hui took out her mobile phone and wrote a text message to Lu Chang'an, "Although you didn't praise me, I agreed." Without sending it immediately, Bai Hui deleted a few words and changed it to "Although you didn't praise me, I reluctantly agreed." This guy wouldn't reply, then don't force it. It was really possible, so Bai Hui changed it to "Then I will teach them tomorrow." He may not reply to the message. Call him tomorrow and ask him. Usually, if you call a few times, he will answer the phone when he sees it. Okay, it should be after dinner. Seeing Lu Chang'an's reply, Bai Hui jumped for joy, put away her phone, put her hands in her pockets, pulled the hem of her down jacket, and went home one by one. Bai Hui's mother hadn't gone to bed yet. She saw her daughter was quite arrogant and kicked her little feet back home. She hurriedly grabbed her hand and asked, "I just heard Lu Chang'an say that he has a girlfriend. Is it you?" Bai Hui was a little reluctant to answer the question and frowned. "Mom, are you still worried that I can't find a boyfriend?" "It seems it's not you." Bai Hui's mother patted Bai Hui's chest, showing a distressed expression. "It's over, my daughter has fallen in love with someone else's boyfriend." Bai Hui's family has no objection to her finding a boyfriend in college, so Bai Hui has no need to be secretive about it. If he really is her boyfriend, he probably won't admit it directly at this time, but his face most of them will show a shy look. "What nonsense are you talking about? His girlfriend is a good friend of mine. We usually have a good relationship and often play together." Bai Hui's cheeks were hot and he quickly defended. "I do not believe." "What don't you believe?" "I don't believe it. I don't believe that you and his girlfriend are good friends, and I don't believe that you have a better relationship. It's good that you don't fight together often." Bai Hui huffed angrily. "This is the mother." Lu Chang'an saw an advertisement for undercover agents on a street light pole. 300,000 undercover recruits. The Anti-Do Brigade recruits 50 undercovers with a salary of 300,000 yuan per year and a survival rate of 35%. If major cases are solved, there will be additional bonuses. If someone dies in the line of duty, he will receive a one-time subsidy of 76 months' salary, totaling 1.9 million yuan. Directly RMB 30 monthly salary subsidy for relatives. Conditions: priority will be given to applicants with tattoos, scars, cigarette scars, good psychological quality, strong flexibility and adaptability, singles and strong self-control, and main family members with no criminal records. There is a QR code printed below, with the words "You will win only if you love to fight" written in the middle. After Lu Chang'an scanned the QR code, he found that it was a recruitment platform, so he reported it. It was a junk platform and there was no lower limit for advertising. Lu Chang'an was a little disappointed. He hoped that this was a fraud group, so he could go take a look and blackmail the other party. However, a recruitment platform that could publish such advertisements was more likely to be a fraud gang, so Lu Chang'an collected it. The night was quiet, and Lu Chang'an's mind was distracted. The cold winter and spring scenery he had just seen no longer affected his mental and physical conditions, and he continued to walk slowly and leisurely home. A person walks on the streets of the city, his footsteps follow the road, and he measures the spring, summer, autumn, and winter of the city. Time always passes in such a calm and unhurried manner, but the people and things he sees cannot be so unhurried and unhurried. Following his footsteps, it often feels like the sea has turned into mulberry fields and the beauty has passed away in just a moment. Therefore, in infinite time, we can only choose limited scenery and life experiences. No scenery is the same the second time we look at it, and no experience of life is the same the second time. When Lu Chang'an looked up at the dark sky, he suddenly heard a distant roar. He stopped and judged the message conveyed by this howl. But after this sound, the world fell silent again, and the scream that seemed to be a strong man announcing his arrival and summoning his companions or dependents never sounded again. If Shangguan heard this, he would probably shout, "This must be the revival of spiritual energy." Lu Chang'an couldn't help but laugh, and did not deliberately pursue whether the roar was a mysterious aircraft or a bloodline left over from the mythical era. Aircraft are more likely. After all, this country now needs more high-tech military products to protect it. It is not impossible to have bloodlines left over from the mythical era. For example, the appearance of those downs is a sign. Is Shangguan a mysterious creature like a phoenix? Judging from how confused she is now, it is really possible. According to legend, a creature like the phoenix can achieve nirvana. But no one has ever seen what the phoenix looks like when it is born after nirvana. Shangguan immature body, hidden powerful power, and chaotic state are very consistent with what nirvana should look like when he is first born. Just like after he changed from Lu Jianxi to Lu Chang'an, he looked different for a relatively short period of time. She was unwilling to work and said she had no strength, which must have been intentional. However, when she was nervous about her electric car, she drove into the wall stupidly, but it was a manifestation of her current chaotic state, and she could not control it at any time. All are ripe for round-robin use of all their abilities. Thinking about these things, Lu Chang'an has returned to the community. It's getting late, go to bed first. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 751. Mornings always give people a good feeling for no reason, the clear mind, the feeling of recovery from fatigue in the body, the comfort of stretching the limbs, everything is so comfortable, if you can wake up naturally. DDD. DDD. DDDDDDDD. Ouch, ouch, ouch. Lu Chang'an slept late last night, so he naturally got up later in the morning. Hearing the screams coming from the window, he opened his eyes and looked at the time. It was already 8 o'clock. It was Shangguan and Zhou Dongdong. It's time for these little animals to get active. The person imitating the sound of the electric car horn and shouting in ups and downs was undoubtedly Shangguan. A long series of calls were made in one tone, and the one who seemed to have low IQ was Zhou Dongdong. The one that barked like a husky was naturally Zhou Dongdong's protector Lu Sin. This dog had forgotten the deep roar of a purebred Rottweiler, which was like the roar of a supercar engine. Lu Chang'an got out of bed, opened the window, and pushed aside the stretched out branches and leaves of the sycamore tree. The cool air rushed in, and the slightly cold feeling on his skin felt good. After exhaling a breath of turbid air, Lu Chang'an looked under the tree. Shangguan pushed out her beloved electric car and placed it under the sycamore tree to set up a ground support. She sat on the electric car holding the powder bowl, took a sip or two of powder, and then touched her electric car. Then he called Diddy twice. Zhou Dongdong also holds a bowl of powder and stands on the pedal of the electric car. After Shangguan calls out, she will follow up with a series of DS to say that Shangguan call is like a girl's song. Zhou Dongdong just makes pure noise. Fortunately, their screams were not loud and did not disturb the people. Lu Chang'an was not awakened by them, so he did not secretly throw small stones at them. Lu Xin was lying next to the electric car, stretching his head out to eat a large bowl of meat mixed with rice soup, and a broken tube bone with a lot of meat on the bone. This is probably what happens in those tube bone noodle soup restaurants. The cost of adding one barrel bone is estimated to be more than 10 yuan. Opening a rice noodle shop at home requires a lot of bones to make soup. Zhou Shuling will leave a few bones without scraping the meat for Lu Sin to eat. She believes that the various so-called nutritionally matched dog foods in pet stores are definitely not those made at home. Good. As she is so willing to feed dogs, it is impossible for any pet food to use such ingredients. Lu Chang'an hoped that she could be more generous to herself. In fact, this was very difficult. This little daughter-in-law, who looked weak, and felt aggrieved when her voice was louder, had to change her concept of life, family, etc., which was very difficult. Easy. Lu Chang'an went to wash his face and brush his teeth. There was a note on the electric heating table in the living room. Zhou Shuling was heating breakfast in the electric steamer in the kitchen. She knew that Lu Chang'an might not see it if she sent the message. Today, Zhou Shuling was invited by Li Hongfang to see the Hexi branch. After Zhou Shuling had her first entrepreneurial experience, she was still very serious and cautious because Lu Chang'an said that this time the branch would require more investment and was prepared to borrow part of it. Zhou Shuling thought of that time when Lu Chang'an and her discussing house prices. She suspected that Junqia's house prices would exceed 100,000 yuan in the future. She was very stressed and worried that she would not have the money to prepare a wedding room for Zhou Dongdong in the future. Zhou Shuling has seriously considered that she should not just let the man prepare the wedding room, but also give her daughter more confidence and a high status in her husband's family. Not everyone he meets will be as indifferent to money as Lu Chang'an. Many times, the ideal state of family harmony, happy marriage, and husband and wife treating each other as guests is closely related to financial issues. Everyone wants ideal love, and water, but how many people's ideals come true like a fairy tale? When Zhou Shuling worked hard to make money, she just wanted to prepare a house for Zhou Dongdong. Even if others thought she was stupid and she was bullied, she would still have a place to hide from the wind and rain. After Lu Chang'an finished breakfast, he cleared the table and dishes. He received a call from Qin Yinan, asking him to come over for lunch at noon, so Lu Chang'an took a shower, changed clothes, and went downstairs. Shang Guandandan and Zhou Dongdong had already finished eating. The two noodle bowls were stacked next to the stairs. Lu Xin chewed the bones and returned to the kennel. "Are you taking us out to play?" Shang Guandandan saw Lu Chang'an and subconsciously twisted the handle of the car. His face suddenly turned pale. He found that the electric car did not go out, and then he felt relieved. Fortunately, he did not have the car key. "Insert it? Where are we going to play?" "Brother Chang'an, let's go catch cicadas." Zhou Dongdong remembered that he followed Brother Chang'an to catch cicadas and ate them all. No one said that cicadas are good friends of human beings, and it doesn't matter if they eat them. Frogs, dogs, camels, and pandas are all good friends of human beings. Zhou Dongdong would not ask Brother Chang'an to catch them together. "Where can I catch cicadas this season? Digging larvae in the soil? That won't work. You have to wait until they grow up before you can eat them." Lu Chang'an shook his head. "The natural ecology must be protected. This method of fishing in dry lakes is not acceptable. Are you taking us out to play?" Seeing that Lu Chang'an only answered Zhou Dongdong's question and ignored himself, Shang Guandandan turned sideways and tilted his head so that he could meet his eyes. Lu Chang'an nodded without waiting for Shang Guandandan to ask for the third time. Shang Guandandan usually didn't mind if her questions were ignored, because as long as she didn't answer her, she would keep asking. "Then we're going to ride an electric pony car." "Diddy," Shang Guandandan turned the handle confidently without inserting the car key. "Diddy. Let's go to Lushan Mountain. You can also take the cable car today, but you can't ride an electric bike there." Lu Chang'an knew that Shang Guandandan actually wanted to ride an electric bike, and she didn't really care about where to go. "What kind of cable car is it?" Zhou Dongdong asked curiously, having never ridden before. "It's just like an elevator, but it feels like it's going to the sky. Last time I took it, it stopped when it reached the top of the mountain. Lu Chang'an wanted to throw me down, but luckily I hugged him," Shang Guandandan said to him with lingering fear. Zhou Dongdong Popular Science. "Brother Chang'an will not abandon you, he will protect you." Zhou Dongdong didn't believe it, and patted Shang Guandandan's butt to comfort her. Sister Dandan must have been frightened and confused. "Let's go, let's ride the electric bike first, find a place to park the electric bike at the foot of Lushan Mountain, then take the cable car up, and have lunch at Qin Yinan's place at noon." Lu Chang'an made arrangements, which satisfied Shang Guandandan's desire to ride the electric bike. And also allowed Zhou Dongdong to ride a cable car that he had never ridden before. The world is a big place, and there are so many things that these two little people have never experienced. Lu Chang'an is willing to take them to experience them one by one. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 752. Shang Guandandan sat on the electric car holding the thermos bottle, because he must drink water when going out to play. Lu Chang'an performed very well today, and there must be a reason why he was moved. Shang Guandandan tightened the lid of the pot with satisfaction and carried the thermos pot on his back, on the shoulders, and then sat on the electric car. If he hadn't tried to snatch Shang Guandandan's pony carriage back then, and just took her to play with him, Shang Guandandan would definitely not have been so angry, and probably wouldn't have stamped the edict on deposing the emperor. You sit in the back, Lu Chang'an said to Shang Guandandan. He grabbed the stubble-like hair on the top of Zhou Dongdong's head. Today she was wearing the red woolen hat like a water scoop with a slit on her forehead. Hole. I want to sit in front, and you take me to ride. Shang Guandandan meant that when he rode, she could hold the back of his hand and feel the driving, as if she was riding. Is Zhou Dongdong sitting in the back? She accidentally rolled down. Round children are prone to this situation, just like when Zhou Dongdong tried to ride a dog before, he climbed up here and rolled down there. I'm standing here. Zhou Dongdong climbed to the footrest and stood. That's okay. Lu Chang'an has long hands and feet, so he can just use his hands and feet to protect them in the middle. Lu Chang'an grabbed the handle of the car with both hands, and Shang Guandandan held the back of his hand. Zhou Dongdong saw this, raised his hand with some difficulty, and held the back of Shang Guandandan's hand. Stupid. Lu Chang'an made an objective evaluation. If an ordinary person rode an electric bicycle like this, they would definitely be hindered by them, so a traffic accident is unknown. Bounce back, Shang Guandandan said. This was Zhou Dongdong's way of telling Shang Guandandan that some classmates in school would say unpleasant things about Zhou Dongdong, and Songdazi would angrily shout bounce back loudly. Dongdong learned. I'm witty, brave, and very majestic. Brother Chang'an started the car, and Zhou Dongdong felt like a majestic official. The official on TV got out of the car and stood waving and looking around. Zhou Dongdong had always been very envious, so he waved his round hand, then put it back and held the back of Shang Guandandan's hand. Lu Chang'an rode his electric bike steadily forward, and soon crossed the Zhezhu Bridge. Crossing the bridge in the wind, the scenery on the river was half intoxicated in the mist, and half awakened by the morning light. The woods were green, and various buildings were walking among them, and they were far away. The statue of the great man looks out to the east of the river. After being delisted as a scenic spot the year before last, it was finally relisted at the end of last year. Lu Chang'an suddenly changed his mind and took Zhou Dongdong and Shang Guandandan for a spin in Zhezhu. Electric cars were naturally not allowed to drive around in the area, and the scenic area was not too small. Shang Guandandan walked towards Lu Chang'an's back after only a few steps. Climbing up, Zhou Dongdong discovered the small train for viewing, and Lu Chang'an spent 40 yuan to take them on a ride. They refused to get off the small train, and did not get off at the various scenic spots. They just walked around in a circle. Lu Chang'an took them on the electric bike and left Zhezhu, arriving at the foot of Lushan Mountain. The electric pony car is more important than the electric heating table, Shang Guandandan showed off proudly. It has greatly improved travel problems and improved the quality of life. It is an indispensable and important asset in the family, and can keep pace with the television. Far more than other induction cookers, rice cookers, washing machines, etc. that Shang Guandandan cannot use. This was a decision made by Shang Guandandan, which made the Queen Mother particularly wise and powerful. Thinking about the hardships in the process of saving money, it seemed that he was already on par with Zhou Shuling in terms of managing life. Shang Guandandan nodded to express his agreement with his point of view. Mom can also sit together. Zhou Dongdong also likes electric cars. Her mother can sit behind brother Chang'an. She is not round and will not fall off easily when sitting in the back. Moreover, she can hold brother Chang'an behind. Then Yaya has no choice but to sit here. Shang Guandandan pointed to the glove box and said. Qinyanan's butt is relatively big. If she sits in the front, it will take up too much space, which is not the best arrangement. Sister Fairy, you can stand here. Zhou Dongdong walked around the electric car and finally found a place for someone to sit on the side pedals. Then your brother Chang'an's girlfriend at school can stand on the other side, so that one side won't be light and the other heavy. Shang Guandandan nodded. Sorry, I'm not an Indian and I can't do motorcycle acrobatics. Lu Chang'an imagined the scene they described and couldn't accept it. When I learn to ride an electric bike, I can do this. Shang Guandandan volunteered. Lu Chang'an pointed to the electric car and reminded her that there was another one available here. Are you still thinking about that evil woman? Do you want to make a place for her? Shang Guandandan was a little angry. He married a virtuous woman. Although the evil woman was very good looking, she had a bad personality. Such women are often unable to stay at home. The source of Ning. Although times have changed and family concepts have also undergone tremendous changes, Shang Guandandan's experience and emotional analysis of watching family dramas and ethics dramas that reflect life for a long time show that virtuous women are still men's only pursuit. Otherwise, it can range from cheating, divorce, family breakdown, career collapse, wife and children, to the worst, being castrated, imprisoned, tortured, killed without a complete body, broken bones and ashes spread. This is the case on TV. We can't fully believe this kind of creative plot, but it is definitely an allusion to life. Shang Guandandan is such a virtuous woman, but she is his mother and can only take care of one aspect of his life. If he wants to marry a wife, he will still need virtuous women like Zhou Shuling and Yaya. Who is the bad guy? Have you ever treated us to something to eat? Zhou Dongdong touched his head. If others have treated us to something to eat, then it is definitely not good to say that others are bad people, although bad people will also bring delicious food. After defrauding the child and selling it, Zhou Dongdong thought for a moment, where's Sister Zhong? Sister Zhong often invites us to barbecue. Yes, Zhongqing can sit here. Shang Guandandan patted the front of the electric car and decided to leave the seat to Zhongqing. Lu Chang'an had already gone to the ticket office. Zhou Dongdong and Shang Guandandan quickly followed and grabbed his fingers, one on each side. We set off from home very early, but it took more than an hour to walk around Zhezhou. By this time, there were already more people visiting Shanglu Mountain. The conductor glanced at the child on the wall who was trying to tiptoe toward the 120 centimeters height mark, and gave Lu Chang'an 2 tickets. He felt that the child was a little immobile, and reminded him, pay attention to the safety of the children. The ticket office was still some distance away from the queue for the cable car. Because it was going up the mountain, Shang Guandandan felt very tired. Just as he was about to make eye contact with Lu Chang'an raised his palm, and Shang Guandandan muttered and gave up. After all, if he insists on going, if he climbed on his back, Lu Chang'an might humiliate the Queen Mother's noble ass in public, which would be unseemly. Zhou Dongdong skipped ahead, and Lu Chang'an had to remind her not to fall. Because it was spherical, there was a possibility that it would roll along the mountain path to the foot of the mountain if it fell. After queuing for a while and getting on the cable car, Zhou Dongdong was so excited that he felt like he was flying. He regretted not carrying the wings of a small plane today. Shang Guandandan quietly hugged Lu Chang'an's neck, not as nervous as last time. He was scared because he didn't want to throw her away. Shang Guandandan just rested her head on his shoulder and looked around. The modern world still made her feel extremely magical. Fortunately, she finally found him. When they came to the mountain, Shang Guandandan bought stinky tofu to eat. Zhou Dongdong wanted to play with the telescope on the viewing platform, but it was out of reach. Lu Chang'an held her in front of him and let her look at it for a while. He came here to enjoy the sightseeing. The citizens all expressed their admiration for Lu Chang'an's arm strength. Next to the viewing platform is Qinyanan's hotel suite. The balcony on her roof is higher than the public viewing platform, and the view is wider. Qinyanan saw Lu Chang'an standing on the balcony, waved hello to Shang Guandandan, and showed a warm smile. Shang Guandandan went upstairs first. Lu Chang'an and Zhou Dongdong finished playing with the telescope, said hello to the short-haired cat basking in the sun at the door of the hotel, and said a few words before going to take the elevator. "Brother Chang'an, do you have any poems to say hello to cats?" Zhou Dongdong asked. "What? After reading the poem, you want to eat it?" Lu Chang'an remembered that Zhou Dongdong ate the big goose after greeting him with "Goose goose, Kuxiang sings to the sky." "How could I eat cats? Cats catch mice and are man's best friends. When I heard you say it's a good friend of mankind, I felt it was dangerous. If it is in danger, I will protect it. Do you remember the loach you want to protect?" "How can I remember? Is there any poem about greeting cats?" Lu Chang'an thought for a while, recalling Lu Yu who was tamed by a cat and became a cat slave, so he memorized a poem. Being a raccoon slave wrapped in salt, he often goes to the corner of the theater. He is always drunk with mint, and he occupies the cat's nest every night. The rat's hole has many advantages. Is there no reward for the fish meal? You should still give your name and call it less Tutu. How come there is such a long poem? Zhou Dongdong was shocked. Go ahead and say hello to the cat. Brother Chang'an, I suddenly have a stomachache. Come here, let me rub your belly. Once the pain stops, go and recite the poem. Zhou Dongdong ran away. Lu Chang'an walked to the elevator door, called Zhou Dongdong back who was running without looking back, and went upstairs to Qinyanan's home. Somewhat surprisingly, Yan Qingcheng was also there. After asking, it turned out that Yan Qingcheng continued the arrangement at the end of last semester and continued to make up classes for Zhu Huntang, so she returned to school early. Zhu Huntang ranked last in the class in the final exam last semester, and was the only first-year student in the biology department who failed all the subjects. It is not surprising that Zhu Huntang would achieve such results. If it were not for the reason of being a Taiwanese student, and without the donations and investments to Zhangde University, she would not even be able to get to the door of Zhangde University, at least thousands of steps away. The content of Lu Chang'an's makeup lessons for Zhu Huntang was mainly traditional culture and literature, historical knowledge and preparation for textbook knowledge for the makeup exam, which Yan Qingcheng was responsible for. Yan Qingcheng's part-time job earns a lot of money. Although Lu Chang'an recommended him, Yan Qingcheng felt that he must also thank Qinyanan and Zhu Huntang's parents for greeting him, so he brought some local products from home to Qinyanan. Qinyanan was not polite and accepted it directly, and stayed with Yan Qingcheng to have lunch together. Yan Qingcheng saw that the teacher was so neat and cheerful, and she was not polite enough to push him away, so she stayed. She didn't hear Qinyanan say that Lu Chang'an would come, and he also brought a little girl and a child. Shang Guandandan was sitting on the sofa, grabbing a piece of sweet potato scraping with both hands and eating it. She was already controlled by the sweet potato scraping. She did not say hello to Zhou Dongdong, but only used her eyes to indicate to Zhou Dongdong that this was delicious. So Zhou Dongdong sat next to Shang Guandandan and also grabbed a piece of sweet potato scraping and started to chew it. Eat less of this, your stomach will be easily bloated. Eat something delicious for lunch later, Lu Chang'an reminded Zhou Dongdong when he heard that he had a stomachache just now. The two of them nodded together and decided to stop eating after only 3 pieces. I heard from Xiao Tang that you also taught her lessons yesterday. Yan Qingcheng was a little cautious, but fortunately she could talk to Lu Chang'an, although she and Lu Chang'an were not actually close friends, but here it was already the most relaxing conversation partner for her. It was she who taught me the lesson. Lu Chang'an thought of Zhu Huntang's understanding of Guanju, which was really mind-expanding. Yan Qingcheng couldn't help but laugh. She had been teaching Zhu Huntang for a while and had a deep understanding of it. She didn't know why Lu Chang'an suddenly couldn't think of it and wanted to teach Zhu Huntang. In her impression, Lu Chang'an was not the kind of person who enthusiastically paid attention to the studies of his classmates, nor did he want to make money to support living and study expenses like her. Giving lessons to Zhu Huntang is the most troublesome and difficult course to teach among all the part-time tutoring jobs that Yan Qingcheng has done, but the money given is too much, and Yan Qingcheng feels that there is no reason to complain, as long as she holds the just work with the most patience, care, and seriousness. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 753. Every time Yan Qingcheng finished giving lessons to Zhu Huntang, someone would transfer money directly to her. Yan Qingcheng saved all the money and sent a small part back to support her family. She did not dare to send all of it back for fear of worrying her mother. Anyway, there is no brother in the family who is waiting to sell her sister to go to school, buy a house and marry a wife. If there is really any need for money, it will be the same for her to use it. Actually, she is quite smart. Yan Qingcheng looked at Lu Chang'an's meaning and seemed to be dissatisfied with Zhu Huntang's study. She felt that she should not agree with Lu Chang'an and speak ill of her employer behind his back. It's just that her thinking is different from that of ordinary people. Ordinary people would think that her ideas are easy to go astray. But in fact, her living conditions and background determine that the logic that ordinary people take for granted may not necessarily apply to her. I think you are quite smart. Lu Chang'an smiled. Even though everyone had the impression that Lu Chang'an often bullied Zhu Huntang, Yan Qingcheng refused to join Lu Chang'an in complaining about Zhu Huntang. This is indeed a very smart performance. The most stupid thing is to ruin the meal. This kind of stupid things still happen all the time, from ordinary people to countries and regions. Just like Lu Chang'an's reading of novels, some authors clearly rely on readers to make a living, but they think they are superior. Not only do they point fingers between the lines, but they also accuse sanquay and even directly mock readers with their yellow mouth and white teeth. This is extremely stupid. Usually when encountering such an author, Lu Chang'an would delete the book from the shelves, and would not read the pirated version because it would be ridiculed. I'm serious, but I think Xiao Tang is more suitable to major in liberal arts. I don't know why she chose a biology major. This is something Yan Qingcheng cannot understand. Zhu Huntang should not have any interest in this major. What is her special interest? Yan Qingcheng chose this major because she has this interest and career plan. You still think she's stupid? Lu Chang'an's view is different from Yan Qingcheng's. In fact, Zhu Huntang is not suitable for learning anything, and she is suitable for being a sheep and eating grass. No. Yan Qingcheng shook her head vigorously. A small number of people who can study both science and liberal arts choose liberal arts. Some people can't feel the fun of learning in science studies, so they choose liberal arts. More people, especially those who go to school dozens of years ago, until now, they have not been able to study science and have had to choose liberal arts. Many of these people have now become public figures and make mentally retarded remarks all day long, without logic and disregarding facts. Lu Chang'an also shook his head. For a long time, in high school, when people study liberal arts, the subtext is that they think this person is not smart and is suitable for messing around but not for studying. How can you be so extreme? Yan Qingcheng was a little funny. I am a science student, but I don't have this sense of superiority. Do I have a sense of superiority? I have always used facts to reason. Science students can basically learn and do what liberal arts students can do, and there is no obstacle to changing majors. Can you try it instead? Science students can learn, yes. How many liberal arts students can understand it? Science students originally choose liberal arts or science because of their interest. Liberal arts students choose liberal arts because of their brain conditions. Lu Chang'an waved his hand. I won't talk to you about this anymore. If it's a butt problem, I will speak for Zhu Huntang. What s? Qin Yinan walked out of the bedroom and grabbed the key words. Her fingers fell from her waist and gently tapped her hip line. When it came to her butt, she was worthy of everyone, even the moon in the sky. Common adjectives. Yan Qingcheng looked at Qin Yinan in surprise. Just after Qin Yinan greeted Shang Guandandan, she told Yan Qingcheng to go back to the bedroom to change clothes and prepare to cook. Qin Yinan was wearing a loose backless short skirt, and her soft back skin exuded a slight sheen. The waist of the skirt was loose and slightly hollow, which always made Yan Qingcheng worried that she would be exposed by simply raising her hands and bending down. The skirt was even too short. Yan Qingcheng didn't dare to wear it anyway, but she had to admire teacher Qin's figure. Yan Qingcheng had never seen a fourth pair of such long legs in real life. Fortunately, Qin Yinan casually picked up an apron and hung it in front of her. Yan Qingcheng watched her put on the apron, but found that after Qin Yinan put it on, she looked even more, that kind of thing. We are talking about the problem of Zhu Huntang learning with his butt. Lu Chang'an is a gentleman, so his eyes never dodge obscenity, and naturally fell on Qin Yinan. This is a kind of frank praise from the heart and respect for women's right to show off their bodies. Qin Yinan actually likes Zhu Huntang's hip line. As for whether Zhu Huntang uses his butt to learn, she doesn't have any opinion. Anyway, Zhu Huntang is not taking the route of a genius successor. He is not old and will always be more mature. With a top-notch family background and the support of Lu Chang'an, Qin Yinan could not imagine how far Zhu Huntang would go to death to ruin the family business. At present, Zhu Huntang's most desperate behavior is that he likes to provoke Lu Chang'an, but Lu Chang'an hasn't killed her yet. It seems that there is no problem with Zhu Huntang's stability for the rest of his life. Come to the kitchen with me to cook, Qin Yinan said to Lu Chang'an casually, and then greeted Yan Qingcheng with a smile. Let's watch TV first, and I will come out to talk to you later. Teacher Qin, you are busy with your business, Yan Qingcheng said quickly, and then watched Lu Chang'an follow Qin Yinan into the kitchen. Yan Qingcheng remembered that at the end of last semester, after tutoring Zhu Huntang, she saw Qin Yinan visiting a maternal and infant products store in the mall downstairs, and showed great interest in cribs. Today, Yan Qingcheng saw a crib in the corner of Qin Yinan's living room. What was puzzling was that cribs were not always placed in bedrooms or nurseries, and few were placed in the living room. Yan Qingcheng suspected that Qin Yinan was pregnant at that time, but it was just the winter vacation, and Qin Yinan's figure did not show any deformation. This is also normal. Many women show their pregnancy later. I don't know if it was for psychological reasons, but Yan Qingcheng felt that Qin Yinan's figure showed signs of growth during pregnancy. Now Qin Yinan asks Lu Chang'an to help in the kitchen. Will Lu Chang'an be like many people on TV? A man gently hugs a pregnant woman's belly from behind. By the way, this is the purpose of Qin Yinan wearing this backless dress. Lu Chang'an can reach in directly from the waist, hug the skin of her lower abdomen without any obstruction, and feel the signs of life of the fetus. Yan Qingcheng tilted her head and quickly sat up straight. Long time no see. Yan Qingcheng found the little girl next to him holding sweet potato scrapers in both hands and looking at her, and spoke to her quickly. Yan Qingcheng recognized Shang Guandandan. Lu Chang'an brought Shang Guandandan to a social event. Sunangzia was also there at that time. Lu Chang'an and Shang Guandandan ate a lot of sweet potato slices and brought back a bag. Shang Guandandan nodded, his mouth full of sweet potato scrapings, and he couldn't speak now. Lu Chang'an seemed to take this little girl with him wherever he went. The friendship was like this, and he also brought him with him when he came to Qin Yinan's home. Qin Yinan was also very enthusiastic about this little girl, asking her for her welfare, as if a mother who had lost her daughter for many years finally took her daughter home. The normal mother-daughter relationship has not yet been restored, and she feels like she wants to give her daughter away. The little girl is so pretty. The girl's Lu Chang'an nose seemed to be so polished and naturally beautiful. Yan Qingchen even doubts that Lu Chang'an is willing to say hello and say a few words to her. Among the women, she is the most ordinary looking. Although Yan Qingchen is actually considered to have the best appearance and figure among all the female college students in Hunan University. What grade are you in now? 8th grade, 9th grade, Yan Qingchen asked again. This question was difficult to answer by shaking his head or nodding, so Shang Guandandan gave Yan Qingchen a look and asked her to understand it by herself. After looking at Yan Qingchen for a few seconds and making sure that her eyes had conveyed the right expression, Shang Guandandan then continued to lower his head and chewed his sweet potato scrapings wholeheartedly. When it came to concentrating on eating, Shang Guandandan felt that he was not as good as Zhou Dongdong. Zhou Dongdong seemed to have disappeared into the real world. What could disturb her? Yan Qingchen couldn't understand, and felt a little restrained by Shangwen's indifferent eyes, so she also picked up a sweet potato slice, held it in her hand and started to chew it. Lu Chang'an and Qin Yinan were preparing lunch in the kitchen. The ingredients prepared by Qin Yinan were put here by Zhu Huntang. Zhu Huntang mentioned it when he came to Lu Chang'an's house to pay New Year's greetings yesterday. Lu Chang'an took a look and saw a large pot of black gold abalone from the Forgotten Corner. The reason why this place of origin is called the Forgotten Corner is because it is often forgotten on various world maps and has no sense of existence. Everyone may know this country, but it is often lost when the maps are drawn. It is New Zealand. I don't care about the country for now, but many of the seafood produced in this place are still good. For example, the black gold abalone in front of you. The abalone's feet are adsorbed on the volcanic rocks on the seabed all year round and are rich in various minerals, so the surface film of the abalone's feet is dark, but very nutritious. Black gold abalone is relatively common, and is sold online for only about £300 per pound. The batch of large black gold abalone that Zhu Huntang collected is not so common. The meat is large and the shell is thin. The smallest one weighs 2 pounds. The black golden abalone lives well at the bottom of the sea. It took more than 10 or 20 years to grow to such a big size, and it was even found and eaten by people. Lu Chang'an felt a little emotional, and then decided on 2 methods: boil it in a pressure cooker, stir fry, and slice it. Fry in butter. I need to eat more nutritional supplements. Qin Yinan pointed to a pile of isinglass in the dry goods storage cabinet. I've prepared everything. Now is the time to supplement my stomach with nutrients. As she spoke, Qin Yinan raised her hand to gently comfort her belly, her eyes soft, as if her whole body exuded the radiance of loving motherhood. Lu Chang'an felt that her affected appearance really looked like Shang Guandandan, and both of them had the delusion that they had become mothers. No wonder the two people have such a good relationship. Shang Guandandan admires Qin Yinan very much. It turns out that it is not only Qin Yinan who licks well, but also because they have common interests. There is nothing we can do about it. There is insufficient nutrition. Some people do not provide supplementary nutrition and have to fend for themselves. Qin Yinan's cheeks were pink and tender, and there was a faint pink on the roots of her ears. She didn't really have any ideas, but she just took them. The words just teased him for a while. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 754. Lu Chang'an has always believed in one sentence: practice is the only criterion for testing truth. Countries and societies that adhere to this standard will continue to move forward and become a truly modern and civilized country. A country that insists on political correctness as the standard of truth is, after all, just wearing the skin of civilization, and will always expose its backward and anti-human nature. Supplementing nutrition was a theory put forward by Sume, but since she had practiced it and even successfully gave birth to Zhu Huntang, Lu Chang'an could not say that Sume's theory was unreliable because it was not practiced. Lu Chang'an was a little suspicious. Sume used certain biological preparations to achieve the effect of nutritional supplements, but after all, they were very flawed. They were not as good as the original nutrients from Lu Chang'an, which led to the defective product Zhu Huntang. So when examining Qin Yinan, Sume's suggestion was to let Lu Chang'an find a way to supplement Qin Yinan's nutrition. If he had gone into battle in person to supplement Qin Yinan's nutrition, maybe the child he would have given birth to would have been perfect. This is just a thought and cannot be confirmed because it has not been practiced and no one can say for sure. Well, it's raining and snowing now, and the weather is cold. New Zealand is located in the southern hemisphere, and it's the warm season. The seawater temperature rises, and all kinds of seafood are plump and lively. You also need to supplement your nutrition, so why not go to New Zealand and eat a few locally? Eat seafood for a month to replenish nutrition, and wait until the weather gets colder in a few months before returning to Juncha. Lu Chang'an made reasonable suggestions based on her needs. Qin Yinan bit her lip and stared at him bitterly. Lu Chang'an began to process the abalone. With so many abalones, it was definitely not possible to make them into sashimi or fry them in butter. He had to leave some to be steamed and braised. The abalone juice was also delicious, but it took a little more time. If he didn't start it now, he would have to do it in the afternoon. It's time for dinner, and it's possible that Shang Guandandan and Zhou Dongdong are so hungry that they mistake Yan Qingcheng for an orange. Why are you so cruel? I'm pregnant with such a big belly, and you actually want to send me to New Zealand. Qin Yinan suddenly felt lonely. When I was a child, you always wanted me to follow you, but now you just want me to get away. This is what's the difference between Xiao Tiantian and Mrs. Niu. Lu Chang'an glanced at Qin Yinan's lower abdomen. She was wearing an apron with tight ties, which completely outlined her figure. Where is the big belly? As a creature like a woman, once the relationship becomes intimate, she will act like a charmer from time to time and put on a show for the man. If you are not satisfied with New Zealand, you can go to Australia. The kangaroo belly is also very big. You may have a common language and have a lot of fun. Lu Chang'an skillfully removed the abalone meat. The black gold abalone has more edible parts and internal organs. It's also edible, so it's easier and faster to dispose of. I hate these countries. Why don't you let me go to Antarctica to be with Sume? Qin Yinan said angrily. Others are usually assigned to the Indian branch, the African branch, etc. Sume has been placed by him in Antarctica. I want to place her there too. There is no direct flight, and it's inconvenient to see you. I can't bear to let you go. Lu Chang'an thought for a while, but this suggestion didn't work. When he was a child, his beloved sister was originally thought to be buried in time. Now that he has found it with great difficulty, of course he can't bear to let it go. She was far away from him. Brother, I knew you still liked me. Qin Yinan's heart softened, and she couldn't help hugging Lu Chang'an from behind, rubbing her cheek against his shoulder. Although the nutrients needed to give birth to a baby were not replenished, emotionally the necessary nutrients are already overflowing. Good boy, let's go out and play with Dandan Dongdong. Lu Chang'an patted her waist with his backhand, and then found that the tentacles were delicate and cool skin. He put down his hand and said, I really feel like I'm pregnant. How can I be like you, dressed like this? And wearing high heels? Showing off your figure, there's nothing you can do about it. I'm used to it. I always feel that the walking posture and leg shape look better when wearing high heels. Qin Yinan's outfit today was also carefully designed. It's hard to elaborate on the thought involved, but for the impact he made was certain, and when he first laid eyes on himself, his eyes lingered a little longer than usual. Therefore, even if they are an old married couple, a woman must dress herself up carefully to win back his attention. Really, Lu Chang'an didn't think so. The only thing that didn't show off a woman's figure was her fluffy and huge plush slippers and black rain boots. And Nuan always wore flat shoes and her figure was still very good. By the way, brother. I heard a strange scream in the middle of the night last night. It sounded like an aircraft or something, but it didn't have such a strong mechanical feel. It sounded frightening. Qin Yinan was still pressed against Lu Chang'an's back, moving towards his ears speak. Is it between 12 o'clock and 1 o'clock? Lu Chang'an frowned slightly. He also heard the howling last night and was not sure whether Qin Yinan heard the same thing as him. I didn't check the time at that time, so I could only estimate. Yes, I was lying on the bed and chatting with my friends, Qin Yinan said with certainty. What kind of friend? There is concern hidden in your casual tone. If it were a man, would you be jealous? Qin Yinan looked forward happily, otherwise why would you ask who your friend is at this time? The question should continue with the shout we heard related. You are overthinking. This is the thinking habit of the elders. Parents ask, who are you friends? Isn't this a very common sentence pattern? Lu Chang'an did not want to meet her expectations. Then the topic will return to the whistling sound. How does your body react when you hear such a cry? The cries of many strange beasts are orders from superiors to the group, which will cause other individuals in the group to instinctively produce some physiological reactions. Lu Chang'an suspected that the howling last night might cause some super life forms to react. It's not you who is screaming, how can I react? Qin Yinan blushed and shook her head. Lu Chang'an turned back to look at her, pushed Qin Yinan out of the kitchen, and closed the door. This girl is really becoming more and more shameless, and her words are too salty. Qin Yinan stood at the kitchen door without leaving, and knocked hard several times. Lu Chang'an opened the door again and said to Qin Yinan, didn't I tell you? Shang Guandandan has a piece of the queen's seal, but she recently gave Zhou Shuling a piece of jade. I don't know what that piece of jade is. Qin Yinan was shocked, her face turned slightly pale, and she stopped teasing her brother. She stepped on her high heels and twisted her waist to find Shang Guandandan. She turned back angrily and glared at Lu Chang'an. Why didn't you tell her about this earlier? He had told him earlier, and now Qin Yinan was guaranteed to have licked Shang Guandandan's whole body. Lu Chang'an closed the door again, and he could finally cook in peace and quiet. Women only made people miserable, and only good food made people happy.